Hi, my name is Marty Owings. Thanks for stopping by today. I recently posted a YouTube video about this old watercolor kit I picked up at an antique shop a few years back. In that video, which is linked below in the description, I swatched out the colors and was really surprised that they still worked and were actually really vibrant. The tin itself had some writing on the back, but I had a bit of a hard time reading it. Well, many of you weighed in on the video, and one viewer even did a little investigation to help uncover its past. Today I thought we'd explore the mystery of this antique watercolor kit. I'll do some drawing and painting, and I'll do my best to pay homage to its origin. Well, thanks to the investigations of a subscriber, Bridget ITG, we know a lot more about the origin of this tin palette, where it came from, who owned it, where they lived. So I'll let you read what she wrote here, but she did some fantastic research and was able to get this to me through a comment on the original video. And then a number of other people started weighing in about how I could maybe create a drawing using the palette and talk about it and use the watercolors too. And then another subscriber, Berolina Strassman, wrote that maybe you should go ahead and paint a sketch of the house that this person, Alfred Matthews, used to live in. So that's what I'm going to do today. Here it is in the finished version, and I'll take you through the process there. But I wanted to look at this tin a little bit more closely because there was a couple of things I missed. Like, who is this H. Sutton? It says care of H. Sutton, and we don't know who that is right now. I spent quite a bit of time this past week just thinking about Alfred Matthews and his watercolor kit, and to be honest, maybe I even got a little bit obsessed. I felt a pull to try to learn more about Mr. Matthews and what his life must have been like. It's one thing to hold an object like this in your hands, and it's another to understand its history or provenance. Bridget's legwork had given me the inspiration I needed to dig a little further, so I found a census record that appeared to have Alfred Matthews living with a family who had a completely different surname. If you're in America, that means last name. The census entry has Alfred Matthews living with the Pocock family on Alma Road in the city of Bournemouth in 1911. Coincidental? I don't know, but Edward and Annie Pocock were in their 70s at the time, and Alfred Matthews was just 6 years old according to the census entry. It was very surprising to see him listed as Edward's son, and it seems unlikely that Alfred was the child of Edward and Annie given their advanced ages, even though it's right there on the census. I wasn't sure what to do then. Could this just be the error of a lazy census taker, or was there more to the story? And where would I go for the answers? I guess this just made me even more intrigued, knowing full well this might not even be the same A. Matthews who scrawled his name in this tin palette more than 100 years ago. I was probably just chasing shadows. I could be, but what the heck, it was fun. So what does the census tell us? Well, a lot, as a matter of fact. Among others in the house on Alma Road were daughters Emily Pocock, age 50, listed as a milliner, which I believe is the Victorian or Edwardian era name for a hat maker. Besides Emily, there's another daughter listed, Edith Pocock, age 35, who is listed as a shop assistant. Curiously, though, there was one more resident listed as a daughter. Her name was Jane Matthews. That's the same surname or last name as Master Alfred. Age 40, occupation listed as, quote, at home, unquote. Could it be possible that the young Master Alfred was the child of Jane rather than her sibling? If that was the case, then what circumstances occurred that found Jane and Alfred living in the home of the elderly Edward and Annie Pocock on Alma Road in 1911? And why did the Pococks list Jane as a daughter and 6-year-old Alfred as a son? Did some tragedy befall Alfred's father? Or maybe there's more to Edward we don't know about. Whatever the case may be, unless someone kept a diary or there's some kind of history or some scandal reported in some paper, I'll probably never know. I don't have access to a lot of those archives over in England, but if I did, I might be tempted to go down and look further into this. Of course, this might not even be the right A. Matthews, as there seemed to be a few in the 1911 census. I wasn't able to find a way to search by exact address, so maybe one of the subscribers or viewers of this who are genealogy detectives can help out a little bit. We do know a few things about the place Alfred lived because he wrote it on the tin, and the house is still there on Alma Road, number 178. I don't know what it looked like in 1911, but we do know what it looks like today. Thanks to the internet, there's photographs of the exterior and even the interior. Of course, this is all how it looks more recently. At some point in the life of this house, it appears it was divided into an upper and lower unit. It's unlikely that Edward and Annie Pocock shared a single level one bedroom with 4 other people, but I don't know for sure. Did the young Mr. Matthews take his lessons and paint pictures in this living room? Was art compulsory, or did he have an interest in painting? Maybe the Pococks encouraged him to take up painting, or maybe it was Jane Matthews. The watercolor kit itself tells its own story. Weathered and dented, it's a survivor. After it passed from Mr. Matthews, we really don't know whether it sat quietly somewhere for 75 or 80 years, or whether it passed through many more hands to get to where it is today. Whatever those answers are, we know as much as we do because a young boy decided to etch some details onto the bottom of his school watercolor kit in a seaside town in England in the early 20th century. After doing a little more investigation and hearing from some other subscribers, I think this is a Reeves and Sons palette, although I can't be 100% certain. There's just not enough evidence on the kit itself. It seemed like these kits and others like it must have been widely used in schools. Reeves and Sons was an English art materials manufacturer. It was established by a guy named William Reeves in 1766. That's a long time ago, older than the country of America, really. William Reeves is actually credited with having invented soluble watercolor, believe it or not. The company was known for its good quality acrylic and watercolor paints. Unfortunately, the brand was sold to an American conglomerate in 1991, and that was the end of the line. Although the reproduced Reeves paints aren't the same as they were during the time that Mr. Matthews lived. There's so many threads I wanted to pull on this story. Whatever happened to Alfred Matthews? Where did he live out the rest of his life? What adventures did he have? Did he have any children? Did he ever travel the world? Did he continue to paint? And how in the heck did his boyhood watercolor kit end up halfway around the world in an antique shop in Minnesota? As I was sketching out Mr. Matthews' old residence there in Bournemouth, I was reminded by my wife how to pronounce things. My wife's from Northern Ireland, and so even though she's got a thick Northern Irish accent, she does know how to pronounce the cities and places in Great Britain a lot better than I do, and most Americans, I think. So I was calling it Bournemouth, and she said, for the love of God, stop doing that. It's Bournemouth. And then I was saying Hampshire, and then she said, no, just say Hampshire. So yeah, she straightened me out pretty quick. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that Berolina Strassman, a subscriber, had mentioned that I should do a quick sketch of the house at that address and use Google Maps as a reference, which I did, and then use the old paints from Mr. Matthews' kit to do that. And this was really exciting to me, something I really appreciate the suggestion, and I wanted to bring the house to life a little bit and pay homage to Mr. Matthews. Whatever his journey was in life, this is where part of it took place. So I'll go to work here and use the paint to try to bring the house to life. Sometimes old objects pass into our lives. For me, it almost always generates a strong curiosity. It makes me want to peer into the past. I like to understand where things come from, how they were made, and a little bit about their history. If it's possible, I'd like to know something about the people's lives who are associated with these objects. These fragments of the past seem to echo the lives of the people who once owned them. Sometimes there aren't any answers, and whatever those stories were or are, they're lost in the shrouded mist of history. In the end, I guess we're all just temporary stewards of these objects. Luckily, in this case, 100 years ago, a young man named Alfred left the future some clues to his story. I think there's something really cool about combining art and history and research and investigation. It'd be cool to work for like Christie's or Sotheby's as the object investigator, the person whose responsibility it is to connect objects with the people who own them and understand the provenance of a thing or a painting or something like that. I remember once in college, I did a paper on women artists in Minnesota, and it was fun because I got to go down to the local history center and do some investigation there, but handle the real objects, papers, documents that these artists once held. And that was a lot of fun, and I felt like a detective in some ways and uncovering the mysteries of that past. I thought about Alfred back then and how he might be sketching or painting in that living room, so I decided to add him in there so that maybe he wouldn't be forgotten when somebody found this drawing. I think it's really compelling that this particular item made its way so far from home and still carried the fragments of Alfred's story intact after more than 100 years. Maybe deep down, most of us hope that we're still remembered in 100 years from now. And maybe just for a little while, we can remember Alfred Matthews, a boy, it seems, who liked to paint and who lived at 178 Alma Road in Bournemouth, Hampshire, England in the early 20th century. In the end, it seems like there's times when we're left with more questions than answers, or we have some answers, but we'd like more. In this case, we're fortunate to have some clues from the past to look up who Alfred Matthews was, and with the help of great subscribers and others, we can start to piece together their story. And that, I think, is a wonderful thing. Thanks for coming along today on this journey and this follow-up video, and really appreciate you. If you have something you want to add to this, or you know something about Alfred Matthews or the palette or anything else, please feel free to drop a comment down in the comments section. I love to read your comments, and I really appreciate everyone who helped out on this. So long for now. This has been Marty for owingsart.com.